I'd like to welcome Ayu to take us through Corbett, take us to Corbett, I should say.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to all. My greetings. I'm Ayu Tripathi, and we run a lodge in Jim Corbett by the name Ahana the Corbett Wilderness. This is in the southern periphery of Jim Corbett, and we share a boundary wall with the Bijrani Forest. My father, Mr. Kamal Tripathi, the man behind this project, he belongs to a family of freedom fighters from Uttarakhand, and all through his life has focused on development of the region through various projects. And it was in the year 2005 that we started this hospitality project with sustainability as its heart. As you see our tagline, it says where luxury meets responsibility. So it points out the two aspects we wanted to combine and bring out through Ahana. What I'm going to do now is going to run you through a timeline of the last 15 years and talk about the different initiatives we have taken over the years. It was in the year 2005 that we purchased this absolutely barren piece of land, which had been plotted for construction by some developers. And the first thing we did was we planted about 1,000 trees around the periphery of the boundary. The land had sandy soil and it had been deemed unfit for cultivation. So it took us over a year to work on it, and a lot of traditional methods were used in order to enhance the soil quality. In the year 2007, we started construction. Since this is the area of expertise for my father, we ensured that most of the building material was locally sourced. A lot of second-hand wood has been used all across the property. The architectural design of all rooms was done in a way that a lot of natural light was there during the day, so we had to not switch on electricity. High conducting transmission lines have been used. Today, of course, the entire property uses LED lighting, and we are now moving towards solar. We had a team of local artisans who stayed with us, and all the furniture, lamps, and decorative items have been made in house. Uh, it was in the year 2010 that we built in our root zone STP. This recycles 100% of the water which we use in the property through an absolutely natural process. The good part is no electricity or chemicals are used in the entire process, and today it has been recognized as one of the largest organic STPs in Asia. We have dedicated almost about 30,000 square feet of land for this. What I've also done is later in the presentation, I've talked about the STP and have added a link to our website. So for anyone who wants to read about it and wants to get back to me with any questions, we can do that. The problem we were facing with this STP was while it has been working fantastically well in the last 10 years, we didn't get any support from government and we were being pressurized to actually put in a chemical plant. The good part has been that the state government of Uttarakhand is now the first government in India to recognize this plant and is also suggesting it to new projects across industries. In the year 2012, we set up our waste management plant and we ensured that we are managing all of our waste. We segregate all of the waste at department level. All biodegradable waste goes for composting. Just in the year 2019 and 20, we produced almost over 2,000 kgs of organic manure. This we use for organic farming within our premises. A part of the non biodegradable waste is reused and the rest is sent for recycling. We also have our own biogas plant, and the kitchens meet 70% of its fuel needs from this plant. I think when you do something like this, what is very important is to be able to get a lot of help from the staff. So the motivating factor for the staff here has been that whatever funds we generate out of the entire waste management process, that go into the staff welfare fund. And I'm so happy to share with all of you that just in the year 2019 and 20, we almost generated close to ₹1 lakh by just selling waste. So I think the important idea is to make people realize that once segregated well, it's not really waste. Today, we also run a lot of cleanliness programs with the village children to be able to generate awareness around plastic hazard and other waste. And we are so happy with the kind of participation we've got from people. Uh, Since we got the liberty to plan our landscape from scratch, a lot of traditional knowledge about indigenous and medicinal plants was put to use. We grew local species to attract birds and have grown a lot of medicinal plants to ward off mosquitoes. Today, we also make use of homemade pesticides and mosquito repellents. And over the years, we have been able to reduce mosquitoes by 95%. Today, we have over 4,500 trees of 200 different species, and we're home to almost about 180 species of birds and 50 species of butterflies. So I have just done a very small comparative study between the root zone STP at Ahana and any other hotel to talk about the installation cost is almost double. And this is data from the last 10 years that we've had the plant now. There has been absolutely no other cost whatsoever. We time and again get the pH level tested, and the pH level of water is generally between 7 to 7.5. Also, because of this plant, we also meet 45% of our daily water needs through this recycled water. And the benefit has been that this water is so rich in minerals and nutrients that today it doesn't feel like all the plants that we have in the property are only about 15 years old. I've also talked about various other features. I don't think I have the time to go through every slide, but I'll send the presentation out so that in case anyone wants to look at the different aspects that we've covered here, can have a look at those. This is one thing I wanted to share with everyone, because this is the definition of profit that my father gave me when I joined him back in 2012. So at Ahana, we believe that profit is only when we of course subtract cost from revenue, but also we reduce carbon footprints. We look at a growing society around us, and that is finally how we define profit at Ahana. So today I think we're very proud of the fact how we are not only recognized as an eco lodge, but also as a luxury resort in Jim Corbett. And I feel we've been able to, the tagline that we had from the very beginning, where luxury meets responsibility, we feel we're actually able to live up to it. So in case you all have any questions, I have put in my personal email here. Any of our initiatives would be available on the website. And in case any of you have a question, you can get back to me on my email address. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayu. That's brilliant. And I can firmly endorse everything she was saying there. We've been up there. We've done very comprehensive pug auditing on her lodge. They have some extremely good examples. And of course, we're actually on Toft Tiger's website, we'll be producing the best practice examples, many of which will come from there. So delighted that you've done that, and well done. Fantastic job that you and your father have been doing on that. Now, I'm delighted to switch over and ask Shobha Mohan to talk to us about marketing sustainability, a really important part. So not only doing it, but then how to portray that to clients, to travelers, to reinforce what you're doing, to reinforce their enjoyment, to understand the relationship between destinations and sustainability. Really tricky, and but we're very lucky to have Shobha Mohan, who herself is a sort of guru in doing exactly that. So a marketing guru. She doesn't like that word, I know, but I'm going to say that. And I'm going to let her take over and tell us a little bit about your own experience of doing it and how to do it and how to do it well. Because I do think we all got a lot to learn as to how to do that. Thank you. Thank you, Shobha.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Toft. I think over a period of time, we've all, from when I started off in 2003, where I personally was a novice in what conservation-based tourism was all about, to where we stand today. We have many more takers. We have a lot more hotels, and I'm particularly impressed with Ahana. That's wonderful to know, Ayu. Really, really well done, and congratulations. That's the kind of data I would like to be putting out where each and every hotel of ours are concerned. The challenge is that a lot of our hoteliers, a lot of rare hoteliers who have been involved in conservation for a very long time, don't believe that they're all there. And some of them also believe that they have to, like go 100% to, they have to be 100% before even pitching or showing themselves off as somebody who's been working in sustainability and promoting conservation based tourism and hospitality. But my point is that conservation based tourism and hospitality is not only about showcasing what you are doing in your respective destinations and hotels and hospitality projects. It is also about, and more often it is almost always about driving a change in very in small bits and pieces, and also encouraging others around you to follow something, to probably do it better than you have already done. I read somewhere recently, and this is something which I really love, that we don't really want 7 billion people doing sustainability perfectly. We don't want 100 people doing sustainability perfectly. We should have 7 billion people across the earth, 7+ billion people across the earth doing it imperfectly. I think that's the kind of aim that we believe we should be achieving. And where conservation marketing is concerned, most of what I'll be presenting today is my own experiences. I must tell you, I wasn't prepared for the converted and the experts. I was actually, my presentation is usually very simple. I'm talking to people who are coming into this field or are willing to learn or change something that they do. So if I'm, saying something controversial, I request to be excused. I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, so that's a wonderful picture from one of our very strong proponents of conservation-based tourism from, and I'm not going to be talking about giving names over here, but what is conservation-based tourism, and how does each one of us look at promoting conservation or sustainability, and are we willing to promote sustainability as a strong point for converting sales, of creating consumer awareness? Are we open to do it? Is a very important point when we are talking about conservation-based tourism. So what does it encompass? Social impact. This is from my perspective. Of course, it encompasses a lot of social impact. Primarily, I think any tourism or hospitality product is there. The primary aim of these tourism and hospitality product, besides being business, is also to ensure that the community community benefits. At least if it doesn't benefit, at least it should not ruin the life and living environment for the community. At the same time, the destination has to, it is very important that the destination retains its integrity and its original quality. Like somebody famously said, if it's a place worth living, it's a place worth traveling to, but definitely not something that you can ruin as a traveler and come back. Behavioral change, both in terms of, especially in this environment where there are tour operators, where there are hoteliers, there are marketing companies, there are social media people who are listening in. I think one of the key things about conservation-based tourism is also about driving behavioral change. It begins with a lot of understanding about the environment. It deals with a lot of destination awareness, also the challenges of the community that are there, and what happens if a horde of tourists kind of land in that particular destination. Lastly, conservation-based ideals, and I've always found this challenging, that two important conservationists don't really see eye to eye. Not all conservationists see things in the same perspective, but that again is a part of the learning that I believe it's very important for people like us, who definitely, for me, my biggest worry is that I am not out there mudding my feet and dirtying my hands. I'm only the spokesperson of conservation-based tourism and hospitality products. Commercials in the end is again a very important part of it. If something doesn't sell, however beautiful, sustainable, community friendly it is, it's not going to be making money for the community or the project. And at some point, the hospitality owner or the hotel owner loses steam midway. So I think commercials are very, very important. So the basis of all action and change where conservation is concerned is as simple as A, B, and C. This is one of my favorite things. And I have learned over a period of time that, building awareness for yourself and then creating it for people who are listening into you or buy into what you're selling is very, very important. So knowing everything that there is to know about climate change, about, environment challenges of a destination, about challenges that the community is facing, about naysayers, about, everything that is that this particular destination or a tourism product has to tell you is something that you should be aware of. So reading up, listening in, listening to people who are in this space is very, very important. The second is, of course, believing, is belief, believing that each of us can make a difference and can impact in whatever small way, even if it is even if you pick up something that is a very, very small initiative at your property, at a particular hotel, or in a particular company, somebody picks it up and takes it, makes a big thing about it. It's a big thing. It's a big flag for conservation. The third is, of course, choice. Once you are aware and you believe that you can make a change, you can make a difference, I think the choices that you will be making will always be very, very careful and conscious. For each of us, conservation means a lot of things. We've been toying with different aspects where conservation was concerned, and at RARE we actually coded it into these 9 little infographics, covering a lot from heritage conservation to cultural conservation to intangible cultural heritage, community engagement. Of course, single-use plastic is probably one on top of every list. And it's not to say that each one of them cannot independently stand its own, and it cannot really take this up forcefully. But a balanced view in where everything is concerned. I mean, you could be doing everything, but you let your community or your team go when the pandemic has struck you is definitely not something which I would appreciate in somebody who's talking about conservation and community building. It's about the people. From the beginning, we've said wherever marketing and communication is concerned, it's always about the people. Look at it in the tourism perspective. You have tour operators promoting you. They have very limited idea or knowledge or destinations that they are promoting. At the same time, on the other hand, there are hotels that are hotels or homestays or conservation-based lodges or heritage hotels preserved, and that are opening up in different parts of the world or different parts of the country. To tie these two people together, and then the community at the other end, and the traveler at as the final part of this chain, it means we are actually aiming to be promoting something which is just not about great views and great great food, or just about that the size of the pool or having a lap pool in your rooms. The product, this is the beginning and the end. The product speaks 1,000 words. What you've done, where have you located your product? To say that you've built a 400-room hotel and are sustainable isn't working. To say that you have built a large, brick and mortar, property with hundreds and acres of golf courses and things like that, well, it's not working. So the product, of course, is very, very important, and that ultimately speaks 1,000 words. It might be small, it might be mid-sized, but that actually really makes a lot of difference. The product ultimately is your canvas, the way you decorate it and the way you you aim at projecting what the hotel or lodge or even an experience is all about, is all in the way you design. The design of the hospitality is a very, very important element, and I think that becomes, for a marketing company and a communications company, it becomes very, very easy to put out these images, especially in this age of social media, Instagram and things like that, though I hate calling these kind of images Instagrammable, but it becomes very, very simple to show the soul of a particular property. And that is again a very, very important part. Um, Impacting inspiring human interest stories. I think you all know this very, very famous image from Jamtara Wilderness Camp. What not many people know and what we don't shout out too much. In fact, Amit has told me so many times that, he's really tired of seeing this picture on every, in every fair and in every cover that we try and project for promotions. But the story behind it is how they have managed to keep this this particular piece of land that they have hired or rented from a local farmer, who doesn't make a lot of money because it's usually dug out by wild boars, and he doesn't make any money. So typically in instances like this piece of land is usually sold off to somebody who will build something ugly and horrible, or they'll probably start. I don't want to say it, but maybe try and harm the wild boar. An idea like this is a very simple and a very inspiring human interest story, which is lovely to say. And these are the kind of stories when we are marketing, when conservation-based marketing, when you're talking about conservation-based marketing, it makes a lot of difference. And an image to match it definitely goes a long way in catching people's attention. The concept and experience, of course, and this is one, and I mentioned Swatma here. This is an image from Swatma in Tanjavur. I mentioned this place because before this particular hotel came about, Tanjavur was not even a night destination. But to bring about a hotel that ropes in the local cuisine, the art, architecture, music, dance, performing arts, you name it, they brought everything into their narrative, and setting them out as experiences really creates a great great benchmark for other people to follow. In which case, conservation marketing then just isn't about the structure that you have built. It is also about how you have literally pulled in every aspect of that heritage into your narrative. In fact, now that Toft is also trying to create and endorse hotels who are other than wildlife lodges. Since you're also looking at other properties, other heritage hotels and other hotels which are not in the wildlife or nature zones, it becomes very important, and as how these hotels, in fact heritage hotels, also rope in most of the intangible heritage to create a swell narrative. Some of the imagery, in fact, the activities kind of have made a great impact in the way we've been trying to talk about a particular hotel or a destination. For instance, at Jim's Jungle Retreat, and you see that tiger made from a collage of different animals and grass and everything. Butterflies also, and now you can see peacocks and all kinds of things there. The tagline that they use for this is seek the tiger, find the jungle. And this kind of narrative, and I remember when we used to present it, it makes a very, very powerful storyline to be talking about the concept of a hotel that encourages you to look beyond a tiger. Promoting things like the termite walk, for instance, which again, Jim's Jungle Lodge does. It is immediately a call out to travelers with children to say, come and discover the natural world around us. I remember doing talking about junior ranger programs talking about junior chef programs, this kind of visuals, knowledge, activities that engage audiences, engage travelers with what can be done across the board from children to young adults becomes, again, a very, very important part of what we can do where conservation-based tourism is concerned. Reaching out to receptive audiences, I've seen middle-aged people are, such as myself, it is very difficult to change their mindset. But I've always seen that it's fantastic to be reaching out to young children, young adults. Sadly, the price points don't always match, but it is, I mean, reaching out to them through visuals, through small stories, through activities, cycling and things like that are a great way to get them to introduce destinations to them, and allow them to discover destinations very differently than from sitting on a 4x4 and driving around, driving amok in the jungles. I remember when there used to be these walking safaris in Satpura. Most of the time I was told that it is the Indian travelers are least interested in these walking safaris. It's mostly taken by foreigners, but that's changing. That's changing also because a lot of young people are going, and the way we've started to tell our narratives, I mean, the way we started to narrate these experiences have become very different. For instance, I was at Satpura last year, and we were a bunch of 50 plus ladies and gents, and Pradeep Kishan was taking us around with his book, trying to get us to identify trees. Now that made a very, very interesting activity for all of us. And activities like that, led by experts, or even led by somebody who has a lot of local knowledge, again, for us, from a marketing standpoint, to be using this as a story to say, Kalu Dada at Chhatrasagar, we've taught him how to identify birds for you. And that visual of this man standing in this traditional Rajasthani turban and his dhoti and his kurta, and standing with a binocular and a bird book and identifying birds for you. It's a striking picture, and it adds to the whole idea of promoting community-based tourism, where the community is impacted very, very strongly. In a bit, I'll tell you the side effects of this, but building communities and network growth, again, is very important. One of the things for most marketing companies, who I don't know if there are anyone listening in, is to build that network. So though as a group of hotels, there are a lot of people who came together, what they learn from each other, how they take a particular, like a particular idea, say how to, let's say how to do RO water bottles, or how to say do composting or something like that. So between the community, they kind of come together and form a larger group of people. Similarly, they reach out to travelers who come there, and I've not known of, especially these times when so much domestic travel is happening. Every other booking that they go to places like this, they write back to say exactly this: I've come back learning how easy it is to compost in my backyard, things like that. So that is the strength of the marketing conservation-based products, which is, again, allows you to increase the network of people who buy into what you're selling. Simple ideas like this are great agents for change. Having great pictures to show this, that's one of the things. I mean, not everybody is happy to take a photo or a selfie with something that they have created, and allowing a marketing company to put it all out there. But that it is very, very important. How else do we tell you the difference between an XYZ hotel and an ABC hotel, which might outwardly seem the same, but are very, very different in the way they deal with issues like this. Creating visual messaging is, again, very important, and we at Rare, we've been using every opportunity in the book, every day that is to be celebrated, trying to get the word out there about, I mean, even dipping into our traditional knowledge about elephants and things like that. Whenever there is a there is a message to be created. We dip into everything that is there. I mean, traditional knowledge, some happy story, some sad story, or everything, just to create awareness about issues like this, which kind of feed into the whole idea of conservation-based tourism. What is it about conservation tourism? First of all, it is not false. I mean, you cannot get away with saying things which are not true, right? So authentic is, it has to be very, very authentic. We do have somebody who's constantly looking into what is being posted, constantly looking into um, whether, if they say we've said no to plastic, or plastic has come back during the pandemic or something like that, somebody is constantly looking at the claims that our hotels are doing, because currently it's all self-audit, right? Only a few of them have really gone into the professional and paid audits. No manipulation. So there is no manipulating any data or something like that, or giving like a blanket figure to do anything. It's not a commodity. This is something that we really struggle with. How not to commoditize the work that you're doing. At the same time, we are faced with the challenge of trying to explain why conservation is not a cheap entity. Simply because we give you RO water doesn't mean our prices can come down by 20% or 30%, right? And conservation also does not mean, conservation-based tourism does not also does not mean we are basic, rustic or basic. These are the typical words that are usually used when you tell them that we are a green hotel or an eco-friendly hotel. Um, these stories have to power sales. Is not the end to the means, is not a means to the end, but at the same time they have to power the idea of sales. At the end of the day, like one of my hoteliers once said, Kishova, great work you're doing, but as long if I don't get those heads on the beds or the bottom portion of the body and all of them together, it's not going to make any difference to me. So we need these stories, and they need to be powered. They need to power our sales, but really by not making them that key focus area, saying is, or not using them to brag about it, but as a creative way to power change in the way travelers would behave. Really measuring impacts through real data, which has also been very, very helpful for us, which is why a lot of books that have been created around national parks or some of the heritage hotels really help us make a big case for the hotels that we promote. Motivating travelers has been one of the biggest challenges, and for the last 4-5 years, especially when we started looking at the domestic traveler, we've been trying to create campaigns to encourage travelers to start exploring differently when they are looking at a hotel. Not looking, and which is why we'd like to call it conscious luxury travel. And I must tell you, it isn't very popular with a lot of the hoteliers that we promote, whose hotels we promote. But that bit of luxury was important. Someday it will drop off, because again, like I said, the whole conservation-based tourism and sustainability and ecotourism bit in India still has a very tough name. Somebody said to my face that, Shobha, I am not going to go slum it out somewhere. So we had to say, well, it is luxury, just like Ayu pointed out before. It is responsible luxury. It can be luxurious, but it does not need to pertain to your sense of luxury. I don't need to give you a mile-long buffet. I can get you something which is fresh and flavorful from the farm nearby. So those kind of ideas we've been trying to motivate travelers with. Some of the ways we try and encourage through our visual marketing and Instagram is by putting these attributes of what are they following and everything. So just trying to create a lot of interest in a world that is so full of content now. I mean, there was a lovely video against Instagrams recently, but in a world that is completely inundated with visual stories, there is this need to constantly keep changing our tonality, our words and voice, just to make sure that you're heard and seen above all the clutter. And I must say that there are one of the things that promoting and talking about hotels that really love the planet they are on, and they really care for the community that they are surrounded by, is that it has taught me humility. I mean, there's so much to be done out there, and this is as much as we can do. It's also been one of great learning. You learn almost every day. So, and the second thing, of course, is the third most important thing is patience. I used to, kind of get irritated when I come up with a brilliant idea and to be shot down and say, no, we don't have money for this or something like that. It's taken me a lot of time to understand that a lot of it can be done without money. Right. And that is where I come to this point about collaborations. Join Crusaders and collaborations. Please lend your voice. As a hotel, as a marketing company, as a travel company, you need to be out there and be involved. You can't just sit in a corner where you're there and say, okay, I'm doing this X, Y, Z. Ultimately, that's us. Thank you so much here for any questions that you have. That leaf that you saw floating around is a metaphor that we constantly use about trying to promote conservation, this is Ginkgo biloba, called maidenhair tree. Today, it is found in every corner of the earth, and originally it started. It was found in the East only, and I was, hugely. I was amazed and surprised to find a large gardens filled with this tree. The whole idea is to promote conservation based, whether it is tourism or sustainability or even conscious living. It has to be propagated by the human being. You have to inspire and impact the person around you, whether it's 1 or 10, doesn't matter. And that is what all your marketing has to say. I'd like to end by saying that conservation or sustainability cannot be something that you can only talk about and not live it. At some point in time, it rubs off on you and it starts to impact your life and the way you live. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening in.
Yeah. So thank you, Shobha. That was absolutely brilliant.